we'll get right into the demos, and we'll begin with this integrates with Slack. And I'll start by logging into Slack. So as I said, Slack is a communication and collaboration platform, as you can see from the landing page. So I'll proceed to log in. Remember, Google Workspace supports single sign-on, and there is support for this across multiple enterprise standard applications. So as you can see, I'll simply need to sign in with Google rather than having to sign in with separate credentials for Slack. So this enables you to only have one set of credentials, all of which are protected and managed by Google. So the way Slack works is that you can do direct messages to various colleagues within Slack, and there's also channels. Channels are the equivalent of Google's Spaces. Think of them the way you think about maybe WhatsApp groups, whereby you have a room where different people can actually chat and collaborate on. And actually maybe even send links to documents, etc. So in order to do that integration, all you need to do is under apps, you simply need to add an app. So as you can see, there are various apps over here, and there's actually currently one app that is already added. There's Google Forms to Slack. So this is actually not something that comes with Slack. This is actually part of an extension that we built that integrates Workspace and Slack, such that Google Form input can be sent directly into Slack rooms rather than one having to switch context between applications. So under recommended apps, I see there's Google Drive. So we'll try adding this into one of our Slack workspaces. So down here, you get a description of everything you're able to do with the Google Drive integration for Slack. For example, you're able to create new docs, slides, sheets, etc. right from Slack rather than having to switch context and go back to Google Workspace. You're also able to import existing files from Drive into a Slack channel or a direct message. Again, you can directly search within Google Drive files that have been shared within Slack. Also, whenever you share Google Drive links, you typically need to give permissions for access. So rather than sharing the link within the Slack room and then having to go back to Google Workspace to give that access, you can do that directly in Slack. So this is what I was talking about in terms of eliminating that context switching. So what you need to do is click Add Google Drive to Slack. And so, as I mentioned, this is actually an interoperation between the two platforms. So each platform exchanges certain data with the other. And that is what this information down over here summarizes. So I'll allow this. And as you can see, next I need to authenticate my Google Drive account. So on choosing to authenticate, I'm presented with a Google single sign-on screen. So what's happening now is that Slack is using something we call OAuth. OAuth is an industry standard for authentication and authorization. And what we're doing is we're delegating access to Slack so that Slack can actually interact with my personal files, or rather the organization's files. And OAuth works with the concept of something we call scopes. So the OAuth scopes are essentially permissions, or rather the level of access that said application needs in order to access my files. So here we see Slack will be permitted to do the following: see and manage my various Drive files, view the history of my Google apps, and view and record activity of files in my Google Drive. So I'll proceed to allow that. So we will also look a bit deeper into the aforementioned concepts regarding OAuth in my next slides. So under installed apps, let me try refreshing that again. And we should see Google Drive now. So if I go back to my Slack workspace, I see under apps now I have Google Drive and some basic instructions on how to work with that. So let's say you want to share a document with my team, say everyone within the general channel. You can create that doc. Shortcut to do so is docs.new. Just name it my sample file. And we want to share it via this URL. So I'll come back here to my room and I'll proceed to actually share the link. So as you can see, on sharing the link, it is automatically inferred that this is a Google Drive link, courtesy of the integration we performed. And then, seeing as it's a Google Drive link, there are some options. For example, I'm able to connect with this particular room such that all future Google Drive links will be imported directly into Slack. And once I do that, it is automatically inferred to be a Google Doc. And down here, remember what I said about permissions, rather than having to go back to the doc or Drive and whatnot, I'm able to assign those permissions directly from here. So I can assign those permissions there to everyone within the organization, or simply with everyone within the Slack channels. So I can give everyone within the channel editor access. And that is all. You see, at that point, Slack communicated with Google Drive, and Google Drive talked back by responding that said permissions had been actioned. So again, you see, we were able to do that with simply very few clicks. So this is some of the power that within Google Workspace that enables its integration with third-party applications. Again, you could do the same for calendar, and for that, you'd be able to access the various functionality within calendar, such as being able to create events directly from your Slack channel, and again, also letting members within your channel know, for example, your status when you're in a meeting, etc.